As a former, sometimes current, people-pleasing perfectionist, though painfully aware of my imperfection, I feared any personal failure because I feared human and divine rejection. So I often was hesitant to do certain things for fear that I'd make mistakes and suffer the subsequent heartaches. I sometimes even was leery of trying to bake simple cakes, fearing that they would collapse as if there'd been some big earthquakes. Even fewer chances did I take when something more serious was at stake. Such fear, though, kept me bound. Life became frozen and fake. Fear of failing was like fear of drowning in life's adventurous lake. Thankfully, God has brought to mind, faithfully over the years, a simple quote that's often been music to my ears. It was stated by a former coworker to kindly calm my fears. If you make a mistake, nobody dies. What relief it brought to my mind, not just the day that he said it, but each time the Lord did lovingly remind. It has echoed through my head what he said, for it's totally true for every job I do. I've never been a roofer nor a miner, never a police officer, nor the like, where what's at risk is one's own life. I've never been a pilot nor a surgeon, nor other such sort of profession, where even small mistakes can mean the loss of others' lives. In each of my chosen careers, I shouldn't have had any fears. With my mistakes, what may die are just my ego and pride. The death of those would be good, God knows, for they are fatal foes. And what seems to us like major mistakes aren't always actually so. Like the most recent time that I got locked out of my car. That was indeed a mistake, but how it happened was a little bizarre. I'd been warned by the man who sold it that accidental locks can happen. So he instructed me to never leave the key hanging in the ignition. Why? Because the auto lock feature sometimes locks all the doors upon exiting, even when it wasn't one's intention. I'd thus been careful up until the day when focused on a distraction. But what I thought was the worst was actually instead the best part. What brought some stress at first would later bless and bring cheer to my heart. Here's what happened. I went outside to put my car windows up one summer evening in case it started raining. Since cars don't need to be started just for windows unnecessarily, the key was turned just a bit to the mode of accessory. After all the windows went up, I got distracted, for there were some other things in the car to attend to. A few minutes later, when I finally got out, I shut the door and soon sensed what I'd done, or actually didn't do. Imagine my dismay, seeing the headlights on, because the accessory mode was still on. I checked all the doors, but all indeed were locked. Not knowing what to do, I stood there shocked. I called my next-door neighbors, but they were out of town. When told they wouldn't be back till 10, my smile turned to a frown. They said they could help at 10, but it would be very dark by then, so I called another neighbor, hoping he could much sooner do me the favor. He came over to legally break in, using a long metal rod, similar to a straightened wire clothes hanger. I watched, silently chastising myself in embarrassed anger. But the locks aren't the old type that can be pulled up by a hook. Instead, this is how they look. Thankfully, the good Lord impressed my helpful neighbor to instead press, with the end of the rod, the button for the electric window. With great relief, I sighed as down it did go. What I had thought was the most disconcerting, leaving the key in accessory mode with glowing headlights alerting, was what allowed the window to go down, so it was a blessing. Let's view mistakes with a gentle eye. They may actually come from on high. And even if mistakes are due to negligence or failure, Typically, not one single soul will die.